Welcome, everyone, to episode 92 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name is Kevin. I'm here with Doug. We do not have Owen this week, but we are
No
about
Owen.
a number of movies: Conclave, Emilia Pérez, and Blitz. Three movies that are big Oscar contenders. And so we're also going to do a little bit of Oscars talk to go along with those.
It's a little bit of a catch-up episode.
Yeah, that's how we'd frame it, I guess. And also, we're getting closer to Oscar season, and so it's good to have a little update on the
Yeah.
pod, and it's beneficial that we do it the week that Owen is not here.
Yes.
Um,
And we
but
are like really really sophisticated like invested Oscar pundits, I
yeah,
would say.
sure, that many people would call us that. Yeah,
Everybody's saying this. Everybody on
yeah,
Blue Sky
everybody's
has been
saying
saying
this.
that. Everybody on
Uh,
Blue Sky has been saying that.
everybody on Blue Sky, our 14 followers on Blue Sky, are saying this. Do we want to do weekly watches first? And do you want to get us started, perhaps? It's a
You know
short
what,
week in
Kevin?
terms of recording. So,
Absolutely. So I watched one old movie and then my voice cracked. I
yeah,
watched
that was like a massive voice crack.
that was embarrassing. Embarrassing. I watched one old movie, which old.
Sure.
uh, and then the rest of my week was, watching new stuff. But I watched The Lovers, uh, directed by legendary Hong Kong filmmaker Chow Hawk, who I'm on the record saying is my favorite filmmaker, I think. But chipping away at his filmography, I'm very close to being done. He has so
Mhm.
many movies though. The Lovers though, 1994. It's a really cool movie. It's based off of this I guess like folk tale, like this
Mhm.
Chinese folk tale that is comparable to like their version of Romeo and Juliet, you know? It's
Mhm.
about like these two young lovers that just
Shocking.
cannot be together because of their circumstances. But what's one of the interesting things about this, it's about uh a boy and a girl fall in love at this school, but the girl is pretending to be a boy, and then the boy that falls in love with her doesn't know that she's a girl and he thinks that he's gay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of
This
interesting.
is the movie that you recommended to me, correct? I feel like I
Yeah.
remember you telling. I did put it on my watch list. So,
So yeah, and this is like a broad recommendation. I will say it's like it's not a normal movie,
yeah.
but my when I was watching it, I was so like, oh wait, I think Kevin might like this because the first I want to say like the first half of it is so like comedy. It's just a high school. It's about these two people
Mhm.
that are basically in high school, and it's like real broad appeal, like studio high school comedy kind of like bits. It's very cute. And then the second half is like super dour and sad and like kind of
Man.
fucked up. It's really interesting. But there's like lots of jokes, and I think that it's really good. So that's The Lovers, 1994. And that's
Nice.
the only old movie I watched this week. After
Everything else was in preparation for the pod.
everything else was just kind of like new stuff. I watched Memoir of a Snail,
Right.
the new Adam Elliott picture. It's really good. It's really good.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know it was rated. I discovered today that it's rated R. I don't really think about ratings anymore. But
Right.
it is
No,
interesting
well,
that
we talked about that when we saw the movie, because friend of the pod, Sophie, is one of the people who I saw it with, and I didn't like. I guess because it almost feels foreign because when specifically like in reference to Oscar talk, right, is like you kind of talk about like the best animated feature category, and it's almost exclusively kids movies, and so like I almost just kind of like go into new animated movies thinking that they're kids movies and forget that there's like people doing adult animation like that. Which
yeah.
like it could, I guess, be a PG-13 movie. It's not like that extreme, but there's like some stuff in there that
There's like
I guess there's
nudity.
like nudity, yeah, exactly, that I
Yeah.
guess warrants the R rating. But
Yeah. It's I don't. It's just because I went to a local theater today to watch a couple movies, and when they played the trailer for Memoir of a Snail, because they're getting it later, and at the end it said rated R, and I was like, what the fuck?
right.
But it's interesting. It's really good. It's a way bigger, way more ambitious of a project than Mary and Max was, which is one of my favorite movies already. That's why I was so excited for Memoir of a Snail.
Yeah.
Um,
For reference
there's
for the listener, if you remember, Doug drafted Memoir of a Snail, I believe, first overall in our first round in our most anticipated of the year draft.
Yeah, I think
Um,
my first pick was Queer, and then my
oh,
second
maybe,
pick
and then okay, that
was
makes
Memoir of a
sense.
Snail, if I
But
remember correctly.
but does it stack up, I guess, to your level of excitement that you had previously in the year?
Yeah, no, I think it does. I think it does. I think that it's easy to get in your head about new things like this because I did that before Memoir of a Snail. We really knew anything about it other than like its cast and it's like a approximate release date. Like there was no trailer or first look or anything. No, there was a first look. There was the first look of the Sadie, what's her name? The Sadie Snook character, the main character looking sad.
Sarah Snook.
Sarah Snook. But other than that, I didn't know anything about it. But yeah, it's easy to get wrapped up in your head though when you like have like these hypothetical movies, you know, and it's like, oh,
Mhm.
here's a hypothetical movie that you know is coming out, and it's like, oh, I'm so excited for
Grace
that. And you think about
Puddle,
it a lot.
by the way.
Oh,
Sorry,
Grace
I also
Puddle.
forgot the name. Yeah, but very cute name for a very cute character.
No, the whole it's also creative. I think that something that I thought was really interesting in the movie that is so different from like any other. I don't want to say any other, but like a lot of other animation or things that are considered animated is like there's moments of the film that are just like captured like live. It's not stop motion.
Mhm.
Um, like like the beginning. I think that the beginning is just he built this him and his team, of course, built this like really elaborate set. It is like giant set, and they were just moving the camera around this big set.
Yeah.
And there was an exterior shot of the house, and it's like there's thunderstorm behind the house, and it's just a shot of that like the physical house that they made. It's like a miniature, and then they had like behind it. I think they just had like a practical light effect going off, and it
Mhm.
was just like filmed in like real like 24 frames a second in real time and not stop motion. It's interesting. There's like stuff like that that I was like technically because it's an animated film, stuff like that I think is interesting because it like kind of breaks the conventions of what we think of oh it's a stop motion film, you know.
Yeah.
But the movie's very good. It's life affirming cinema. Made me cry. It made me feel very good about myself. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Um
I think I mentioned it on our weekly watches last episode or something, but yeah, it's a very sweet movie.
I rewatched Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning after the Mission Impossible trailer was released for
Naturally.
the
Yeah.
it's called Final Reckoning. Uh
You could probably even include Final Reckoning in your weekly watches based on how many times you watch the trailer.
I
It might
did
even reach feature length.
I did watch the trailer a number of times. It's a very good trailer. For a movie that's good. Listen, there's like no way this movie's bad.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, of course.
and then yeah, whatever. Dead Reckoning's great. We never did a pod about Dead Reckoning, did we? Because that's the lost
That
podcast.
is the Lost Podcast episode, yeah.
How unfortunate. And then I watched
But
Emilia Perez,
here's our
which
chance to do it again when Final Reckoning comes out.
spoil. That's hey, listen, that's a little while from now. We
Yeah.
can't plan that
Yeah, you're
far
right.
ahead.
You're right.
Um, but then I watched Emilia Perez with one of our mutual friends, which we'll talk about in a second. Don't want to spoil anything about that movie. And
Yeah.
then I watched Here, which I don't think we are going to talk about. Um, a couple words on Here. Here, did you know that Here was based off of a book?
I feel like I may have heard this somewhere, but having
So,
not seen the movie, I don't know much about it at all.
because I was watching Here and I was like, man, there's like really incredible moments in this film. There's like there's like moments that are really amazing, and then there's moments that are like some Robert Zemeckis bullshit. And that's like most
Yeah.
of the moments, I guess. But which is I mean, Robert Zemeckis bullshit is fine. It's just like not. It's not there's no Robert Zemeckis bullshit in like the perfect movie, you know.
Yeah.
um, but and Here, so it's based off this book of the same name. It's a graphic novel,
Okay.
called Here, and I looked into this and I read I don't think I don't think I did not finish it. I read about half of it, I think, and it is maybe a little bit more than half of it, but it is kind of everything I like about the movie, but it's just the stuff I like about the movie. Because the graphic novel kind of focuses more on like what's not happening right here, you know? Not
Yeah.
more on. It's just like that's also part of it. It's like, oh, like all this stuff happens in this one place, but then all this stuff doesn't happen here either. It's like
Yeah.
really capturing kind of like the existence of this one. It's really, really interesting and it's very abstract. And that's what I liked about the movie with the moments of abstraction. But the thing about the Robert Zemeckis movie is that there's a lot of he really kind of forces like a lot of stuff to happen in this one shot that like really shouldn't have. Like every single thing that has ever happened in that fucking house that the Tom Hanks family lives in happens in that living room. It's
Yeah,
like yeah,
that
it's like
makes sense.
it is a
And it's like
little.
some of this stuff should be happening in other rooms
They
where we
have a
don't know and
dining
we fill
room.
in the blanks.
They have a dining room like that's established that there's a dining room, but then eat Thanksgiving in the living room because that's where the fucking shot is. You know, it's like stuff like that
Yeah.
where it's like, and it's like, and she gives birth in the living room. They get married in the living room. It's like every single thing that happens like that can't that is every big thing that happens in the living room. When it's like no, a lot of big things don't happen here. But Robert Zemeckis is a little hacky.
Well, when you say gets married in the living room, you mean they have a like they just propose or they have like a
They
literal
have their literal
ceremony?
wedding, wedding ceremony in the living room. No, that's what I
Like
mean.
that
Where
would
it's like,
annoy me. Like it's like that
it's
would
like
piss me
fucking,
off a
it's
little
like
bit.
fucking every major event in Tom Hanks's character's life happens in that fucking living room.
Yeah, that is a Robert Zemeckis thing to do, I guess.
When it's like in the book, it's like yeah, part of like the book is like yeah, like a lot of stuff does not happen in the living room, and also the movie here 70% of the movie is about this is about Tom Hanks's life, the character that he plays his life. Um that's not really part of the book. The book is way more abstract and about like not as narratively strict. Um
Yeah.
and yeah, so book is definitely better than the movie. The book is really good. Really recommend the book. The movie is cool. There's some cool stuff in the movie, but it's still a fucking Robert Zemeckis movie starring Tom Hanks, and if you don't like stuff like that, you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
Last movie, Hellboy the Crooked Man. I watched this. It's bad. It's the new
Nice.
Hellboy movie directed by Brian Taylor. It's bad. Anyways,
I'm gonna be honest, when I heard you or when you texted me about this, I was like, I was unaware that there was even a new Hellboy movie coming out.
it's
You said
Brian
that and I
Taylor,
was
the
like,
director of
what?
Crank.
Right. But like I've never I never even heard about this. Like is it even playing in most theater? I don't even think it's playing near me.
It was direct to VOD.
Oh, okay. That explains a little bit of my question, but I still feel like I would have at least heard about it. You were the first person to like make me even realize that this was a thing that was happening.
Yeah, me and Owen kind of talked about it, and we were like,
Yeah, I
"Oh,
feel
you'll
like
be
I
able
remember
to."
you bringing it up in previous podcasts, but I just didn't know it was like out. Like I just didn't
Yeah,
know it was like
it like came out because they announced that it wasn't gonna play in theaters, and then it came out on VOD, and then nobody watched it, and
yeah,
I was like, it was like last night. I was just like, "Oh right, I should just watch. I should just. I'll throw that movie on right now," and I watched it.
right.
And it was bad.
Yeah. I've got
So
some new releases to talk about as well, but also some old stuff.
okay,
I the day after rewatching Conclave, which we will talk about in a minute, I watched The Grand Budapest Hotel because it also stars Ray Fiennes, and um, that movie's awesome. And I get that it's like the most, when people talk about Wes Anderson's filmography, I guess there isn't really like any total clear favorites because it is kind of almost personal preference like across the board, but Grand
Grand
Budapest Hotel
Budapest
is like his
Hotel is
most
the
commercially
closest.
successful,
Yeah,
the most successful awards wise, like critically it is his biggest movie. And so I haven't seen it in a long time and been watching a lot of other Wes Anderson movies since then, and it's like I wouldn't just outwardly say it's my favorite one, but to me, it is like so clearly his funniest. Like some of the stuff that Ray Fiennes gets to say is just like he's just so good in it, and the lines are so silly, and I was like laughing so hard. And it's also just a great movie, of course. But that it was nice to revisit that one. And then speaking of revisiting, I watched the first Harry Potter movie as part of a binge that will be occurring over the next month or so. Um, and it's lovely. I mean, the first one's always nice because it's just like, I kind of said this in my review was like an interesting thing that I thought about, but it's kind of like the first one is kind of just like when you're playing a big video game and like the whole like they just kind of like introduce you to how the world of the video game works, like a big like open world video game, and they're like teaching you everything. That's kind of just like the first minute, like you go to like their like like their first Quidditch class, and they like learn how to like fly on the brooms, and like they you see them in their first class, and it's like nice, like the setup of it all is nice because like it really the plot doesn't even really start until like toward the end of that first movie. And then, of course, the story is driven in all the other movies. But there's just like an hour in the first movie that is just like setting up the world of Harry Potter, and like the magic of that for like a kid is just so neat that it's just such a cozy movie because you just like get like kind of enveloped in all the little like things about the world. And it's like they don't really spend time on that in any of the other movies, because once you're in there, you're just like in there. Now it's like this is the plot, and this is what all these things have to happen from the books. But like, the first one, it's just like, here's all the stuff. Like
Yeah,
it's fun
it
that way.
it really it does a really excellent job of introducing the viewer to the idea of like a magical world, you know.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like it sets everything up so well. It's maybe, I think for that reason, almost like probably, even if it's not my favorite, definitely the most rewatchable one. Like it's like if you just think of one you want to put on like in the holiday season and like just like be cozy
It's a
with and like
very
rewatch it
holiday
and feel,
season
yeah,
movie.
like it's just like
Yeah.
it's just very nice. I mean, so is the second one in a lot of ways, I guess, because it's still like early um in their Hogwarts tenure, whatever. I don't know what the word is, but the first one is just really like cozy and nice, and it makes you feel good. And I can appreciate that. I went to an early, let's call it influencer screening of Gladiator
An
2.
influ
Um
screen.
yeah, with a ton of friends of the pod. Sophie was there, George Carmi was there, Alex Coleman was there. So that was
Shout out the
neat.
guys.
That was really cool. And I mean, earlier on in the year on the pod, and even in our draft, I did take Gladiator 2 first overall. It was my most anticipated movie for the rest of the year after seeing, I guess, some of the other obvious ones, Dune Part 2 or whatever. Um, and I don't want to say it totally lived up to the hype because it didn't and has some issues, but like I personally had a ton of fun with it. I don't know that is going to be the general reaction, but I guess I could really save most of my comments for next week, since that is quite literally the next episode we're doing on the podcast.
Glicked.
Um, so yeah, licked, wicked.
Glicked.
Um, yeah, but because of that, I'm not gonna say anything much about the movie because we'll talk about it at length. So, but that was cool that I got to do that with some pals
That is very cool.
and see that movie.
I second that being cool.
Thanks to IMAX for the invite. Even though they didn't really advertise it as IMAX when we got there. They invited me. They were like, IMAX invites you to the screening, and then you go there and it's like presented by YouTube, and it's like, and then the like YouTube spokesperson came out and they were like, thanks everybody, like you guys are such great YouTube creators. And I was like, I don't make videos on YouTube, but thank you anyway. um must have been two separate invites, I guess. But and then I watched From Dusk Till Dawn with some pals. I had a movie night and we did a little double feature, even a triple feature technically, but the third movie I didn't really pay attention to. But the first movie was From Dusk Till Dawn, which it's cool. I wish I liked it more. I definitely understand why some people would love it. But the Tarantino of it all is just a little too much for me. I think other people obviously lean into the Tarantino of it all because people love Tarantino. I'm not one of those people. Even kind of pre my taste now, even when I was younger, I was never even that big of a Tarantino guy. It was mostly just Inglorious Bastards that really won me over. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not like the biggest Tarantino person, and especially him being in the movie just makes it like even more of an eyesore. It's not like just it's not just the obvious like Tarantino writing. It's like I also have to see him speak, and so that's like a big
You got to see him
hurdle.
act.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a big hurdle to overcome for that movie. So it's like honestly, the fact that I even sort of liked it is a compliment to everybody else involved, I guess. And then the second half of that movie night, I made my friends watch Cecil B. Demented, the John Waters movie, which I had seen previously, obviously, and I wanted to see them react to it. And then I remembered, I was like, this is not really like the kind of movie you just show to like anybody. Like, it's like you should probably be a little picky about who you show this movie to. But they actually had a great time. Like they were but like just very early on, like into the movie, when I remembered like the types of jokes they're making and stuff, I was just like, I might have fucked up. But then they were like laughing a lot, so I was like, okay, I guess it is both universally appealing and a little bit weird to just throw on for the average person. Um,
Uh,
but
Shout out Sean Waters though.
yeah, I mean, he's awesome, and the movie's awesome. I loved it even more rewatching it now. There's, like, stuff that I don't even kind of I mean, I remembered most of it, but there's stuff I didn't even remember from the first watch that I really liked about it. It's just a very silly movie. It's just funny the whole way through, and, like, if you're like a real big fan of movies, you'll just, like, get a real kick out of it, hopefully. It's a movie for the movie lovers. Uh, I watched this movie Snow Angels. I know Owen has been talking highly about David Gordon Green recently. Is David Gordon Green obsession, but specifically this movie Snow Angels that David Gordon Green directed caught my attention, and so I wanted to watch it, and it felt the other night like kind of a good watch. I'm like, it's starting to get cold. Maybe I watch like a wintry movie before winter, and so I picked this one. It's sad. It's not just a wintry movie. It's sad. It's a sad fucking movie. Like the subject matter is incredibly devastating, and I did not realize that going into it. I heard people say it was sad, but I didn't know it was going to be like that sad. It really upsets you a little bit, but it's a great movie. I would love to like kind of tap a little more into David Gordon Green's early work. The George Washington obviously is like the big one that I have to
Yeah,
watch, but
Your
like
Highness.
yeah, sure, not that really, but I kind of the pre Your Highness stuff I would love to check out more of, because it seemed like he was a real force before he kind of shifted gears towards like studio comedies and then eventually like Halloween movies. um because like
And
Snow Angels
then
is
yeah.
awesome. Like it's like, I don't know. So I'd love to see. I don't know how much he plans on returning to stuff like that in the future, but the guy can direct when he tries. So um, so it's yeah, interesting movie, and I'd really recommend that one. I don't want to talk too much about it because not that many people have seen it. It seems like, at least according to
It's like his
Letterboxd.
least popular movie, it
Yeah,
appears to be.
but I would tell people to give it a shot if you're in the mood to be sad, and there's great performances all around. It's a nice winter watch. But yeah, and then the final movie that we'll touch on also in a little bit of the Oscar talk is a new release, A Real Pain, which I saw in theaters yesterday. Like I said, I'll kind of give a little bit more of my thoughts when we get to the Oscar stuff, but I was impressed that I liked this movie. I thought Jesse Eisenberg might only make movies that annoy me,
Mhm.
and the guy did it. He won me over a little bit after that last one. I didn't think it was possible, but this one really got to me a little bit, and not just that, but I think I might even appreciate it more as time passes, because I woke up today, and the whole day I've kind of been thinking about it quite a bit. So we'll talk about that during Oscar stuff, but yeah, real decent movie. I was not expecting that. Jesse Eisenberg, you have my attention.
You
Uh,
have my Well, that's the thing. You gotta learn how to direct. The first one's
yeah.
bad, the second one's better.
No, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. It was specifically though. I meant as a writer. I feel like, because the last movie he wrote was just like so annoying, and now I've kind of seen a lot of people who like that movie mention that its annoyingness is kind of a feature and not like it's annoying on purpose. And does that mean I'll revisit it? Probably not. But this movie is written in a way that I enjoyed a lot more. There was a moment in it where I was like, oh, he might be about to lose me. But then he kind of like fixes it pretty quickly. So I was like, damn, okay, he wrote a good script here. I was impressed. Anyway,
Your
let's talk
review
about.
for his last movie, when he finished saving the world, is so negative. Like
I
this is
don't
such a
even.
mean review.
I don't even remember. Wait, what did I?
This is crazy.
I don't remember when I said.
What you
Uh,
said was in a bad mood when I watched this last night, and this made it so much worse. It's literally my nightmare that I'll write a script that turns out like this.
yeah, that I still feel that way though. To be fair, because no, because like the subject matter was like it was like the reason why the movie annoyed me even more than normal is because like it kind of like was uh in the same realm as like the types of stories that I would want to tell, but just like so annoying. And I'm like, I fear being that level of annoying to other people. I fear other people engaging with a piece of art that I made and being like, damn, this guy sucks. Like it's like this guy's annoying as shit and he doesn't know anything. And it's like that's what that movie felt like at the time. It's like it's like a subject that I'm interested in, but like in the most annoying way. And I was like, do I sound like this? And that made me dislike the movie even more. But I don't know. I could have just been being harsh on myself, and maybe the movie is it's not as bad. I don't, yeah, that's a problem to discuss if I ever rewatch it. We have three movies to talk about here. We won't spend a ton of time on any of them because there's three of them. But I think we could kind of start with the movie that warrants the most conversation. Well, actually, I don't know if this one warrants the most
Oh,
conversation because
which one?
there's a divisive one. But I think this one is, you know, the most fun to talk about, which is Conclave. Um, I
Yeah.
there's another movie that I guess warrants more conversation because there's so much going on. But Conclave feels like the best place to start.
Yeah.
The biggest movie perhaps. Um,
We both like Conclave.
yeah. Surprisingly, I would
Yeah.
say I was not super hyped going into it, and I think maybe even my expectations of what it would be made me dislike the movie more the first time in the moment, and so and that felt unfair, and so I rewatched it a second time this past week, and I had a much better time the second time. I thought it was really fun the second time when I kind of like separated all of the stuff that was weighing down the movie for me the first time. Um, it's still not like my favorite thing in the world. I'm not, I like best picture nominee. I not really,
It's
but
gonna happen. I mean, it
no,
is.
it'll happen. Yeah,
It's
we'll
gonna.
get there.
That is
It'll
in play.
happen. The but like in my world, if I'm picking like 10 movies, obviously this is not one of the ones I'm picking, but I do like it, and I had a quite a good time with it.
It's very entertaining. It's very. It's like, listen, man. This little burger bro, Ed Burger. Um, he's like a super competent filmmaker, right?
Yeah,
Not. I don't think he has like a lot of like interesting things to say about the world
yeah.
necessarily. Um,
I this movie to me, and this feels mean, but this is it's not mean. I think it's just like this is kind of what I think of like the perfect 3.5 star movie, which is what I rated it the second time. Is this is like the this is like really great prestige TV. This is like watching like a great episode of Succession. That's what it felt like. Um,
It's good. I think the movie's so entertaining. It's so entertaining.
it's
Like
so
it's a
watchable.
very
Like it's
yeah,
like
that's the thing. It's super watchable. It's a very entertaining screenplay is the way I would put it. Super
yeah,
entertaining screenplay with very talented actors in it. Um
yeah.
which is kind of that's like what you want in a TV show. Like people like
Yeah, I mean,
spend
you watch
so much
TV for the
money trying to
writing.
achieve that in a TV show.
Yeah, like
Um
I mean, that's what it is. TV is like the writer's medium. You watch TV for good writing and like entertaining writing at that. And
yeah,
this is like, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like
this
it
shit is
feels
going
like,
to hit like crack on VOD. On
yeah,
Netflix, bro,
no, of
this has like
course,
number one Netflix. Shit is gonna go so crazy on VOD.
yeah.
But it's like, granted, it's I don't want to be. Calling it a TV show is a little rude. The
No, it's
movie's
rude because like
yeah,
and that's not what I mean. I'm like,
yeah.
he can direct. It is like a competent movie. It's just I just meant in terms of like feel and like and how watchable it is. It feels like watching like a great episode of Succession or like something along those lines. Like in terms of how it's written, this is like this to me feels like what TV kind of misses a lot of the time. Like it's like this is the kind of stuff that I would watch a whole season of. Like
This is such a great uh idea for a movie, I guess, having a like a making a movie about electing the pope because
yeah,
I don't know how much you knew about this process before watching the movie. It's so interesting. It's
it
so
is.
interesting. So
It
much
is.
about the
Yeah,
Vatican is interesting and it's like, yeah, you want to make a like a thriller, not really a thriller, but like a drama about oh, we have to the conclave of electing the new pope. You know, it's like that's interesting. That's such a layup for me at least. It's like, oh yeah, that's just
Yeah.
naturally interesting because it's a fun, it's like a cool setting. There, it's like a weird, it's like a cult kind of thing, and it's
Yeah.
like there's like interesting politics at play.
It's
I
like
didn't.
it's I mean, I've seen comparisons and it's like this seems like dumbing it down, but but it is like it's like fucking it's fun because it's like Mean Girls but with like cardinals. Like it's like high school drama, but all the people involved are like running to be elected for pope.
Yeah, I thought that some of it was very 2016, like very
Sure.
2016 presidential election. And some of that stuff I was like, okay, okay, we're like we're kind of stuck in time a little bit.
Yeah.
And
I
then
wonder when he wrote it.
the ending I thought was very a little ridiculous.
Yeah. Which we'll get to in a second. Can I ask you before we talk about I guess what you would call the twist
Yeah,
in
that
terms of
twist.
like
That's
the
what I mean when I
reveal.
say it's
Yes,
ridiculous.
yes, yes. Before we talk about that, did you, while watching it, kind of know who was going to be elected pope way ahead of time?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
and
had a
because my
strong
thing,
idea.
yeah, because my
Yes.
thing is, it's like you kind of. I think what's interesting about this one is like people would even pitch it as like a it's like a mystery because of the way it unwinds, right? Where it's like you're kind of waiting to get to find out who wins, but it's also like a thriller because of like all the extra stuff that's going on. And I think what makes this so like effective is that like when the character who ends up being Pope is introduced, I knew right away that dude was gonna that was gonna be Pope.
It's very
And
like
it's still so watchable. Like that's the thing, is like
the
you
save
kind
the
of just
cat
like
ass movie.
yeah, but it's like you know what I mean? It's like that's I think one of its like great strengths is like it's not really so much about who wins as it is like how fun it is to watch the process of getting there.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that about it, where it was like once I knew who it was, I was like, okay, I mean, this is obviously going to happen, but it's like, how do we get there? And it's still so and like other movies that would be ruined. Like it's like if you know who's going to win and all the tension is kind of like removed from the movie, you just like you're just going to be bored. And like that never happened. There was even moments of tension even though I knew where we were going to end up. Like it was like it just really knows how to like keep you hooked the whole time. It's like I mean like you said and like we've said already, it's just it's so watchable, but it's like it's incredible like how watchable it actually is. Like this is just like a put it on for anybody you know kind of movie. Like it's like you have family over, you have friends over, like you could just play this, assuming like once it's on VOD or whatever or streaming, it's like you could just put this on and like you're sure to like have people's attention. Like it's like anybody would watch this, even if you don't watch any movies at all. You can you could
Yeah.
sit through this so easily.
And competent again, it's like a rude word when we talk about these movies that are going to be nominated for 15 Oscars. But
Right.
but that's just listen, that's my perspective. It's like competently made in the sense that it's like it's shot well. I don't think that there's anything that like kind of blows my freaking balls
Right.
off, but like there's some like well constructed shots. It is edited well, but it is very much a screenplay that is being adapted into a film. It's very much like the images are being. It's like it's from word to screen is really what the movie is.
Yeah.
What are the French? It's like a decoupage, right? It's like the word for
Okay.
that. It's but it's and it's like that's like it's not ideal necessarily when making a movie from my perspective. There are lots of people that would say that all movies should be like that, but
Yeah.
but anyways, but yeah,
No, I mean I get what you mean, but I do think it's like I don't know, as like the thing it's going for, like this kind of like thriller, like chamber drama, like
yeah, no, it's cool.
it is
There's a shot early in the movie where the camera is kind of just like circling around while they're doing like
right,
changes
yeah.
to, and I was like, oh, that's neat, like that's fun, that's
Yeah. No,
I
I mean,
like it
there's
when
a
the
couple
camera moves.
yeah, I didn't mean to, like, you know, I don't wanna, like, downplay it, like, I don't think Edward Berger is, like, a guy who can't direct, and that's why I said it's, like, a TV thing. It's like, you know, I do think it looks good. It is a good-looking movie. I'm sure one of those Oscar nominees, when we get to it, is, like, obviously a cinematography Oscar nomination. Like that's just
Yeah.
like kind of a given. So it's like, and it earned it. Like it's like in terms of like, obviously, like, is it the one of the five best looking movies of the year? Probably not. But in terms of like Oscar
No.
contenders, yeah, sure. Like it's a well shot movie. I get why it would be an Oscar contender in cinematography, or even Berger for directing or whatever. Um, do you have any opinions about the
Freaking
speaking of
fire.
Oscars, the score, which is it's composed by the same guy who won Best Score for All Quiet on the Western Front, which
Yeah,
Edward Berger also directed.
you saw this movie opening night. I saw this movie today, which was not
Mhm.
opening night, and you brought this up, or opening week, whatever. You saw it before I did, and you brought this up. You were like, "Oh, the score is so obnoxious. Like shit is going to win best score because it is as obnoxious as All Quiet on the Western Front."
It's not as obnoxious as All Quiet on the Western
And
Front. That's
I
extreme, but
went into the movie with kind of that little kernel of like seed planted in my fucking gray matter,
mhm.
and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's a very obvious score. It's a
Yeah.
very
I
obvious
think what
score."
I meant
You
by
know what else?
obnoxious more was that, like, it felt obnoxious because as I was listening to it, I was like, "Oh, this is a best score winner." You know what I mean? Like, it's that's what I felt more. It wasn't, like, obnoxious in the way that All Quiet on the Western Front is obnoxious, but it was just obnoxious where, like, in the moment, as soon as, like, it first played, I was just like, "Oh, this is gonna win the Oscar,"
Yeah,
and that, like, it was just, like, so obvious, I guess, instead of obnoxious is maybe a better framing.
I think that we might be in an era just because this is our Oscar episode and we're talking about Oscars. We might be in an era where a score has to be really obvious to even win because
Yeah,
I'm the Oppenheimer score is also a very obvious score. It's a very
sure.
big part
Yeah,
of the movie. Again, and that's not me even saying that it's bad. I think that the Conclave score, the music that plays in this movie is pretty unremarkable and not noteworthy.
yeah.
um but it is
It
what it
fits
is,
into the
it's fine.
movie. I mean, it fits the movie well. I just, you know, yeah, obnoxious is probably a stretch. It's just I don't know. I was just like, okay. I was like, whatever. Like it's you know what I mean? It's like I heard it and I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, give it an Oscar, I guess. It's like that if we were gonna rank which Oscars it's gonna be nominated for that it like deserves the most, this would be towards the bottom of the list, I think.
Yeah, if
Like
we're talking about like really like exceptional scores this year, I this isn't even
yeah.
like in the conversation, you know? It's
But
like
speaking of Oscars it deserves, the thing we haven't talked about
it's this
in the
cast.
movie is the cast, yeah, which
Yeah.
like this is one of the heavy hitters.
It's the fucking old white guy
Uh
Olympics over here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we already mentioned in the intro in the weekly watches Ray Fiennes, who will certainly be nominated for Best Actor. I'm assuming you're of the same opinion as me, which is that he deserves it.
Yeah, I guess. How many nominations is that? Only 5?
Yeah, five. Yeah,
I mean, well, let's run this down here in my brain. So it would be like Ray Fiennes then, and then people that I think would deserve it more. Just let's see if he gets kicked out, right? It would be the guy from The Brutalist.
Adrian Brody.
Yeah, Adrian Brody. What are I don't even, what the fuck are movies that came out this year, dude?
I mean, one of the big movies that none of us have seen on the pod yet that is a big Oscar contender is Sing Sing, just because of that weird release it
Oh,
had. And Coleman
yeah.
Domingo obviously will
Coleman
be one
Domingo.
of
Let's just throw him. Yeah.
the
So Adrian Brody, Coleman Domingo.
and then you get to the Daniel Craig for Queer tier, Timothy
Yeah,
Chalamet for playing Bob Dylan,
yeah.
Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice, which we also haven't seen, Paul Mescal in Gladiator 2, which I don't think is going to happen now after seeing the movie. Um,
You know,
Jesse
if this is
Eisenberg in A Real Pain. It's like, yeah, I mean, this is the
if
one.
this
This
is the
one
mix we're
deserved it.
talking about, it's like yeah, Ray Fiennes is yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, there's a couple moments in the movie too. I mean, one this is like
He's
I
good.
guess it's
He's
kind
really
of
good. He's really
yeah, no,
good.
he's great. I think that there's I guess it's like this is obvious if you think about acting. Like it's like to anybody who thinks about it, it's like it's probably obvious good acting, but it is. It's like there's the moment where the Pope is like announced, and we get that shot where we don't we're gonna get into spoilers now anyway, but when we get the shot where it's Ray Fiennes walking towards who is the announced Pope, and like you
Hmm.
don't see the Pope yet,
Hmm.
and he kind of just like you kind of like see there's like a 1 second moment as he's like clapping for him where you see like in his face him like feeling that he didn't win and like knowing in that moment that he actually wanted to win. And that's just so good, man. I'm like I'm like this guy can act, dude. Like
Yeah, no, that's where it's a really good screenplay. Well, it's a good screenplay.
yes, sure, yeah.
Stanley Tucci was this there's this scene where Stanley Tucci, who's also really amazing in this, is talking to Ray Fiennes' character. And Stanley Tucci, before the scene, he was kind of campaigning off of this idea that he didn't want to be the pope. That was like part
Yeah,
of his campaigning to be pope. He's like, hey, I don't want to be pope, and but I have
yeah,
these really strong policy. I have these really strong positions that
yeah.
I'm really passionate about, and here's all of them, and here's what I would do if I was pope, but I don't even want to be pope.
Yeah.
And
I
then
mean,
we have
and
this
one of the big ideas of the movie is that all of these people want to be pope. Like
yeah,
it's like
and then Stanley
everybody.
Tucci is talking to Ray Fiennes later, and he's like, "Of course I want to be Pope." Like, and I
Yeah,
didn't realize, hey, you want to be Pope so bad. And Ray Fiennes like, no, and like you believe Ray Fiennes, where he's like, no, I don't want to be Pope. But
yeah.
it's interesting, yeah,
And then eventually you learn that he,
because
also won, and
every
he's thought
every
about it as
cardinal wants
well.
to
It's
be.
like, yeah, of course you've thought about this. Yeah.
The movie. I wish that the movie kind of touched on how difficult it is to become a cardinal, because
Right.
it's like because the if you don't know, which most people probably don't, because it's like this is really like nerd Catholic shit, but it's like the Pope is at the top, right? And then after the Pope, it's the cardinals, and after cardinals, it's like bishops, and after bishops, like,
Right,
and
right,
then it
right.
keeps like
Yeah.
it's like a triangle and it keeps going down and down. So the Pope is one person. The cardinal is like a handful of people. It's like
Yeah.
not that many.
No, yeah,
It's like
it's
you see
it's
them all
not
sitting in a
yeah. I
room
mean,
in
you
the
see them
movie.
all here.
Like,
Yeah, it's like
yeah,
it's a really small group of people
it is like an entire
who represent the
lifetime's
entire church. Yeah.
it's like an entire lifetime's worth of dedication and work to get into that room, and
Yeah, so it's like, of
90%
course
of
they've
people
thought about
don't.
being the pope. Like,
Like,
it's like
yeah,
nobody would work that hard to get to that point and not at least thinking
exactly.
about getting to the next one. Like, it's like, of course, they've
Yeah,
all thought about it.
yeah,
Um, it's just like a yeah, it's like a weird endpoint, you know? Nobody would be like nobody would aspire to get to the second highest position possible, you know? Like,
right.
it's like that's oh,
And
you're already in such great company. Like, it's like, of course you've thought about getting to the next stop. Like, it's like,
and
I don't
something
know.
else I wish that they also kind of talked about, not talked about, maybe like addressed more head on, was like how important this election is, because whoever they elect pope is probably going to be pope for the rest of their lives, you know.
Yeah.
For like all of like like people voting, it's very likely that they just like will never have a chance to like try and be pope again, because
Yeah.
the pope it's like the Supreme Court, you're in there until you die.
Right.
um
Yeah. Um, did
but yeah,
speaking of elections, did all of the like I guess parallels to real world stuff
yeah, John
give you
Lithgow
make
playing Hillary Clinton,
yeah,
and
did any of that stuff kind of like annoy you or did it was it did it make the movie better or
part of dude, I was watching the movie and I was like, did he really make a movie about fucking well, here's what I really thought. I was like, is a movie about liberal infighting about to win best picture right
right.
now? I was like, what
Yeah.
the fuck are we talking about? I
Yeah,
was
because
like, so like
that's what the movie's about, really, and it's like, that's the stuff that annoyed me the first time I watched it, especially because this movie came out or I guess I saw it opening weekend 2 weeks prior to the election, and so, like, at that time, got it was just a hard watch. It was just a hard watch, and now that I've, like, now that I have the results of the election and we could, that's something we have to deal with, it's like I could just rewatch the movie and less of a like closed mindset, like so locked into the present moment, that it made it a little bit better. But yeah, that stuff was just like a little bit painful the first time around.
dude, there's like, I mean, some of the stuff where it's like so they all I guess they're like the progressives, and out of like all of the people in the conclave, right? Or out of all the cardinals, there's like a little progressive group that are campaigning for Stanley Tucci's character. And then Stanley Tucci just isn't getting enough votes. Also, their voting system, it's really interesting. It is so inefficient. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, so they're all like voting for Stanley Tucci, like we're campaigning for Stanley Tucci's character, and then becomes obvious that like he just doesn't have enough support. So then they have to like figure out what other liberal to throw their weight behind, because they can't let the conservative win. They're like, he's too conservative, and but like the conservative talking points they bring up are like he wants to start speaking Latin again. He wants to bring
Yeah.
Latin back to the church. And
Yeah,
it's
well, there
like,
is kind of the thing. There is kind of his conservative talking point that very much imitates, like, I guess you would say, our immigrant policy, which is like when he talks about like other religions, and he's just like, we need to get rid of these guys, and it's like that one was like a little bit extreme.
yeah, he's like, we have to go to war with Islam. And
Yeah,
it's like, what are you talking like literally what does that mean? Like what is that like
right.
as the
Yeah,
Pope, how would you go to war with Islam? Like what are you
right.
talking about?
Um,
Um
do before we, I guess, move on to our second movie, I guess I hinted previously at the ending. Do we want to talk
yeah,
about
we
the
should
twist ending?
skip ahead. Oh, like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I want to
Skip
say.
ahead to, I mean, this is the last thing we're gonna talk about, so if you don't wanna have
Okay,
the ending spoiled, then skip ahead to the Emilia Perez conversation, which we'll be having next.
because this is a spoiler. So yes, spoiler, full spoiler for Conclave. Which you don't want this spoiled because that's like the movie is, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so who is the actor that it's ooh, oh, it's Carlos Diaz.
Yeah.
Um, what's his
D's.
character's name? Benitez. He
Who
is.
apparently has never been in a movie before?
Yeah, that's where I was like, what the heck?
Wow.
Uh, he
Great performance for never being in a movie before, though.
he's like a secretly appointed cardinal. Like the Pope appointed him in secret for like because he was in like really not safe areas for
Yeah.
like Christian missionaries where he was working and
Right.
stuff. Um, like war, like I don't like. Did he say the
Like,
Congo? Um,
I mean, one of them was in Afghanistan. I don't know. I think maybe he also said he was in the Congo before that, I guess. But
yeah.
yeah, like places like war torn places that are difficult or are not like majority Catholic, and like a cardinal would not be representing. Um, so
Um,
that's like his kind of backstory, is that like he gets there's a word for it in the movie, but he pretty much gets named a cardinal in secret by the Pope, and so nobody knows that he even exists until this election is taking place, this conclave is taking place, and he shows up to the conclave right before it starts and tells, and they go up to Ray Fiennes and they're like, "There's a cardinal that nobody knew about," and so he has to like introduce him into the conclave, and slowly throughout the movie, this cardinal has moments that win a small crowd of people over and then a larger crowd of people over up until the very end, where this new cardinal who nobody knew existed like 3 days ago is now the Pope.
yes, it is very. It's when he was elected, I was like, I knew this was gonna happen. I'm like, this is so dumb. But then it gets even
Yeah.
more kind of ridiculous. And I
Yeah.
don't want to say ridiculous, but it's just so like it's. I don't know. It's like if I saw the screenplay and I got to that, I was like, I would have some notes,
Yeah.
before you started shooting. But
Yeah.
there is a reveal, and it's like kind of hinted out throughout. But the conclave is so serious, where it's like all of the cardinals have to shield themselves away from the outside world until they are done
Yeah.
with the vote. Like like
Yeah.
no information is allowed to come, or it should be allowed to be coming in or out
Right.
from the conclave. It's like
Except
super
to Ray
fucking.
Fiennes, who has a personal messenger delivering
Well,
information from the outside.
it's because he's like running the conclave, but he's like kind of bending the rules a little bit. Um
Right. Yeah. Um,
uh but
and part of that information being delivered is like kind of like these hints at like this medical history
yes.
for specifically this cardinal, but we don't really
Yes.
know what that medical history means until after he is elected pope,
Yeah,
when we learn.
great performance moment from Ray Fiennes when he learns that about this and he goes to confront him.
Mhm.
Really, he's doing, I don't know, he's like his whole demeanor has changed. It's a really good performance moment there in the
Yeah.
movie. But yeah, he's like he doesn't know until after he's elected pope.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And so the thing that we're referring to is that after he's elected pope, we learn
That he has
that
a
that
sex development disorder.
yeah, he's intersex,
Yeah,
um
is intersex
and there was
appropriate? Is that a
that's
PC
what
word?
that's what they said in the movie.
Is that what they said in the movie? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, but uh,
but yeah,
but
he has both male and
the operation,
female.
yes, and the
Yeah.
operation that he was going to get uh was, I guess, canceled. Like they planned a trip um, to I don't know where they say it is, but they plan the trip and like anyway, and then that doesn't happen, and so we have uh, what is now, I guess, considered by the church a controversial figure to be the new pope. And it's kind of like this big
It's
twist,
just that
slap in the face
it's
type of thing at the end.
why? You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
it's
so
like
my
no,
problem, my
specifically being
confusion.
intersex, like, because it's like he's just a boy with ovaries, and that's like kind of what he explains to Ray finds at the end. It's like, yeah, I was just
Yeah.
like a boy, and I happen to have ovaries. Is basically what
Yeah,
he
but it
says.
also says that they didn't find them until he was like an adult and got some other medical procedure done,
Yeah,
and then they found out like when he was like in his 30s or something. Um,
yeah, which is like not a big deal.
yeah, so it's like
Um,
I mean you've gone your whole life at that point with
well, because
but
so I don't understand what I don't understand why they did that.
yeah, so I think it's because so obviously like the thing is that it's like contentious in the church, right? Because the church is a little bit like traditional and like that's kind of like the thing that's fighting is like the new like the progressives versus like this like the tradition of like old and all of that stuff. My problem with the ending specifically is like I think I fear that like this quote unquote progressive ending is actually like detrimental because the like average person, the average like religious person is going to like see the ending and like almost be annoyed by it. You know what I mean? Like I almost feel like the narrative because of the ending is like bad where it's like the average like catholic person or like adult or like even like moderate american or conservative whatever would like see the ending and be like this is a piece of shit now like they would just like the whole movie sucks because of it and they're like that was stupid as fuck and like it's almost like and it's almost like reverse progress because of like backlash towards it and I don't know that that's actually what the response would be I mean that but even in like my theater it felt like there was like a kind of like like almost like over the crowd. Not everybody, but like a number of people just like kind of like a like an audible like eye roll when the reveal happened. And
Well, it's like uh I think that it's I don't want to say bad. It's an interesting decision because the more I think about it, it's like there are a lot of allusions to women's like purpose in the church and their
sure, yeah,
presence in the church. Like Stanley Tucci, he's when he goes on kind of his thing in their secret meeting about all of his policies. They want to be he's not policies as the Pope, but like ideas, like his views. He says that he would want to make women have a larger role in the
yeah.
church. He says that he thinks that women deserve a larger role in the Catholic Church,
And then the
and
one
then
guy's immediate response is like,
we
"Let's
shouldn't
keep the
talk
women
about
out of
that.
this." He's like,
Yeah,
let's not go that
let,
far." It's
let's
like
not talk
we could
about
be
this.
progressive, but maybe let's leave the women out of this. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like, no, you're right. I
Like
mean,
obviously signaling that it's like a lot of the other cardinals like do not agree with that idea.
yeah,
And then there's the Isabella
yeah,
Rossellini character who plays like
has
the
like a
head
little
nun.
yeah, and has like a
I
little monologue moment about women in the church.
Yeah, and there's the other I forgot, I don't know the actor's name, but the black actor that was almost won the Pope. He had like this incident where he took advantage of a young woman when he was really young and is now an estranged child. Now has an estranged child, you know. And there's a lot of like these like there's a lot of themes about like women's place in this kind of society.
Hmm.
And then it kind of leads up to like, oh, now the Pope is intersex, but his election was kind of ridiculous a little bit because he got elected because he did one monologue that said we need to be nice to brown people at the
Yeah,
end of the movie, and then also being intersex is like to me it's like that's such a not it's like, oh, so he's just a guy, you know. He's just a guy that has
yeah.
like
I mean, he says in
um
his like monologue, kind of like this is like it's like I'm still presented to you this way, and it's like
what
I, yeah, I don't know.
I thought they might have done. Okay, so my first thought was, oh, he's gay. That was my first thought. Was like, oh, there's gonna like he has AIDS.
That
That's what I
was
was thinking.
that was also my first
I
thought.
thought
Yeah.
that he had AIDS. I thought that he was gonna go in there and like he was gonna say, yes, I have AIDS because I'm gay. And I was like, that's interesting. That's obviously not what happened. Then my second thought was like, oh, is he gonna make him trans? I was like, that's crazy, kind of. Because that is like to me that would be that's to me as a person, right? I like because obviously it doesn't matter if you're trans, but like
Right.
that would make so much more sense to me as like a controversial, like having a trans pope would be really insane. Not insane as a bad thing, just insane as like super unprecedented, you know? Um, and I'm like that would be kind of interesting because it's like oh, it's like I don't know. It's but like the making him intersex. I don't know. It's a really specific decision. I don't know. You know?
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I don't know that there's that much to talk about it. It's just like I was a little bit thrown
It's a
off by
big.
it. I
It's
was
just
just
like
like,
the big twist
it's
that like a movie kind
yeah,
of
it's
leads
just a
up
big
to.
twist, but it's like twist almost feels like in air quotes. It's like that's like weird that that was the twist. I almost like yeah. I don't know. Eh, I don't know.
Well,
I
because
d-
like
I
Ray
don't have like
Fiennes
any
seemed
strong opinions
concerned.
about it now after a second viewing.
Well, it's interesting because Ray Fiennes. It seemed like that he like when he confronts him about uh his physical, it was more like oh like dude you can't be the pope if you're sick like you know it was more
Right.
like that was kind of like the energy he was going in with. It's like you cannot be
Right.
elected pope if you were sick and you were withholding
Yeah.
the fact that you
If
were
you're like
sick.
dying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Good movie though. It's good movie, obviously
No,
everybody
I
loves it.
enjoyed it. We'll talk
um
about it a little bit more in some Oscars talk. I think maybe we save the Oscars talk about these movies until we just talk about kind of the Best Picture rankings as a whole. But that could bring us to Emilia Perez, which is the movie I referred to earlier as kind of obviously super divisive, a movie that performed very well at Cannes and has since then, once reaching American audiences, faltered a little bit, I guess you could say, but is still a very strong contender to get several Oscar nominations, and maybe win some as well along the way. This is a movie that I saw at New York Film Festival a while back, that Doug did not see at the film festival. It is now streaming. And so, I mean, you're going to have to kind of lead the
I
conversation
wish I
here.
saw it at the New York Film Festival,
Yeah.
bro. Oh my god.
What a room that was. But like I said, you'll have to lead the conversation here because I've genuinely erased half of this movie from my memory. So you might have to piece some things together for me. But
Yeah, I
I
just
mean,
watched
obviously,
it. Um
yeah, you just watched it. And I guess, I was going to say you like the movie, but I feel like I can't even really understand exactly where you fall on
I
it.
think it's a very ridiculous movie.
Okay.
Which is a little obvious, but
Right.
I think that okay, this is a movie about a trans person, about a trans woman, sorry, about a trans woman which also like stars in like air quotes stars a trans woman.
Yeah.
And that
He's saying air quotes because it
she's not
doesn't
really the
feel like
lead
the
of the
lead
movie. It's like
performance.
it's
Yeah.
yeah.
It feels like more like the supporting performance, but
Yeah.
category fraud, whatever. That's not that important.
But yeah, that's not important. But so that by itself is like kind of an important thing to know when you watch this when we talk about that movie. Beyond that, it is written for the screen and directed by a cis man, and it is also it's based off of a musical, like a stage musical that was also I think like written by a cis man. And it is this whole thing is done in such poor taste on a
Yeah.
multiple of levels, and I'm saying it's very ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous in like a they really went for it uh without really like having a good grasp on what it is,
Yeah.
on the it that they're going for is.
It
Um,
it's it there's there's no other way to describe it than by saying that it is so much movie. Like they did so many things. like story wise, obviously, like in terms of like how many swings it takes, like the subject matter, like just all of it is just like so much. Um and it felt like that seeing it at the festival screening as well, where it's just like you almost, even after like the credits are rolling and it's kind of like this weird like scattered applause in there where it's like nobody really knew how long to clap for. I'm not even sure half the room knew exactly what they had just watched. I'm not even sure I knew exactly what I had just watched. I mean, I was already tired from seeing a bunch of other movies at the festival, and like and then this happened, and it was a real difficult one to sit through all the way to the end
Yeah.
because there was just so much going on, and I was like, "What the fuck am I experiencing?" And I almost like didn't even realize how much I disliked the movie until well after because of like how weird it all was at first. It was so much to like take in. But I really don't like the movie. I mean, I don't know. I almost can kind of like see what some people would like about it, but
It's ridiculous. And you know what?
yeah,
The jingling oh, I know I should not be super rude here, but there's like a certain kind of film viewer that also might really care about the Oscars that is going to watch this and be like, "Oh, hell yeah." You know? Hell yeah,
yeah,
because it's like it's like fucking jingling keys, you know? It's like
right, yeah,
um
um,
it is in such bad taste. Some of the stuff that's done in bad taste, because I know you're gonna have a hard time pulling details. There's a scene where um Amelia Perez's children, who do not know that she is their parent, right?
right.
Um says that she smells like their dad and say that she smells like a man. And it's like
That
that
doesn't happen.
that doesn't really happen in Liv's trans experience really because
Yeah,
like you they like when you hormone replacement therapy is you're replacing your testosterone with estrogen and then you kind of stop
yeah,
smelling like a boy. um,
yeah. And
and
this is also like 5 years later, so it's not even like this is like
no, yeah,
you know what I mean? Like so much time has passed
it's like no, she
in
had
this
gender
process.
reassignment surgery. It's like
Yeah,
she
it's like there's so
like
many things that have happened in this process that the movie treats it almost like it's like you kind of like flip a switch and then you're just like a brand new person that is also like still the old person. It's like I don't think
well
they
the
even
the
really
moment
try
where
to understand.
she transitions is kind of flipping a switch, and it is like honestly the most baffling decision to me maybe is like showing how she medically transitions, and it is like she gets fucking every single gender affirming surgery done to her at once, and I'm like, bro, this would be impossible for any human being to recover from.
Yeah,
She gets like 15 surgeries done at the same time, including like plastic surgery, gender reassignment surgery, Adam's apple shaving,
right.
like all this fucking stuff happens at once, and it's like, dude, that would kill somebody. Like
Yeah.
that's not real life is like.
And the
um
problem is like the movie is so uninterested in like the actual process and the representation that I struggle to like find out who the movie is for. Because it's like the average Oscar voter, you know, while we're talking about Oscar talk, is like they might not see the bad taste of it all. They might just see this as good representation,
no,
right?
it's for this, bro, this movie's
But
for like straight libs, you know.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is a lived out fucking movie.
exactly. And so like but the problem is, like, it's just like, I hate that that's the group of people that it's for. Like, it's like that's what makes me really dislike the movie is like it's like
Yeah.
this is a movie and I don't know. I just hate when like I hate when there are kind of like these you know, benchmark moments for stuff that we know has aged poorly in the moment. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it's like for example, right? Like when Hilary Swank did Boys Don't Cry, right? Which is a movie about a trans character as well. Like
Right.
it's like we look back at that movie by today's standards and we're like this is a super poor taste movie. And and it felt kind of like revolutionary at the time. And
Bro,
so
this movie
now
feels like it's should have come out 15 years ago. Like
yeah,
in
and
terms
so
of its
now
politics.
and that's the like annoying thing about it for me is that like Speaking about Oscars talk, right? It's like Mikey Madison's biggest competition, at least right now. This could obviously change, but biggest competition, at least like in this very moment, you would say, is Carla Sofia Gascon for Best Actress. And and a lot of people, obviously, there's like a huge narrative there because this would be the first trans woman to ever win an Oscar. And so like the thing that like bothers me so much is like it's like that's such a huge historical moment to be associated with something that is like shit representation. and
Yeah,
it's like that's frustrating because it's like you bring, like I said, boys don't cry. It's like you kind of like see the like history being written in like the worst way possible, where it's like then we have to look back at this and it's like awesome moment. It's like like a trans woman wins an Oscar for the first time and it's like that's so cool. And then like in 20 years people get to look back at it and be like, this is such a bad depiction of what it's like to be a trans woman. And it's like but then it's kind of like cemented in history because of it, and that is like such a frustrating thing to witness in the moment, like to know that it's already aged poorly when it's like even prior to the Oscars. And it's like if it does end up making history and something like that happens, then it's like damn, like it's like we knew this was not the right movie to have this like level of prestige, but
yeah.
there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, no, it is unfortunate. It's so weird. Having watched the movie, I'm still so kind of like, man, this is really getting so much Oscar buzz. This is so crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense, but it also doesn't make sense because the movie is in such poor taste and so ridiculous. It's already getting Crash comparisons,
yeah,
which I haven't seen Crash.
yeah. I haven't seen
Uh,
Crash, but based on what I know about Crash, I don't
it
know
seems
if it's
apt.
well, I don't know if it's like to that extreme, but maybe a little bit, I
Well, the
guess.
thing about Crash is it's also a movie about something that's kind of serious that is done in super poor taste.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
that's
like
true. Yeah. Um,
but
I don't know.
yes, I don't know.
There's because there's like things about this movie that are ridiculous that I guess you could interpret as like
Just like
a
melodrama.
yeah, or like even a positive. I don't know. Like it's like I don't know. It's not all like bad. I guess like it's I. It also depends on like what your perspective on the movie is, which like I don't know. I for example, there's like the moment where and again, this is like when I kind of like started being confused by the movie that I was watching while I was seeing it in real time. Like it's not like I was watching this on Netflix where I could kind of like pause and be like, what the fuck is happening? I was just kind of like I had to just like get hit in the face with all of the decisions that this movie made without being able to process any of them. Um, but there's the kind of moment where Carlos Sofia Gascon's character, Emilia Perez, obviously, um, is like uh, the backstory, which Doug alluded to earlier, the whole Mexican cartel backstory. She now kind of in the future wants to make amends for all of the stuff that
Yeah.
she did as the leader of the Mexican cartel by like running a like I guess a nonprofit or something
She's like
that like
it's like she's running
helps.
for like public council or
Yeah,
some
she's like
shit.
running for public council, and her campaign is like to help like victims of the Mexican cartel, which she was formerly like the leader of.
Yeah, the
And
movie almost kind of is. It feels like it's doing well. The movie is very gender essentialist, which there are some. Listen, it's not it's not an ideology that I think is particularly good.
right.
um, but there are some people like that out there that really feel that
Yeah.
way. And this
But
movie is one of those things. But it really does feel like that this movie is like also making a weird commentary about gender in terms of like, oh, an evil man then becomes a woman and now is trying to be like a good person as a woman.
yeah.
A little bit, I don't know.
But I don't know. I feel like that I think there's like some kind of positive you could pull out of that section of the movie that like just for me did not hit at all, but it's like that maybe the movie maybe in that moment it is being critical of her, and as opposed to just being like, oh, like cuz it's like you can't just like go from being the person who is systemically responsible for all of this terrible stuff happening and then like flip a switch and be like, here's how I'm gonna actually help those people. Because those people don't want your help. Like you're the last person that the victims of this terrible thing would want helping them in any way. But it almost is like that kind of like faux help where it's like you're not actually doing it, and it's like it's kind of just to, like pat yourself on the back almost. Like now you're in like a position, you know what I mean, where like you can kind of pat yourself on the back. That could almost be interpreted as like something that applies to our real world and is like actually interesting commentary in the movie. I don't know. My problem with that is that I don't know that the movie is intending to do that,
Right.
and that's my conflict because it's like you could almost interpret that as like this is being critical of the Emilia Perez character actually, and it's like and it's not actually like oh you're rich and now like let me just like solve all the world's problems because it's like that's not how the world's problems are not solved by rich people who start nonprofits. They're solved by the working class people who are affected by the problems, and so you know what I'm saying? Like it could
Yeah,
almost be
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
critical of her, but I just don't watching the movie. I really did not feel like that's what it was doing. And so
Yeah.
it's hard for me to back that or like even see that as a positive of the movie because I don't really think that's what it's doing.
I also want to say that this is a musical with like
Yeah.
full big like song and dance numbers. Um, which if you didn't
Which I
know, now you
sometimes had kind
know.
of fun with. I want to say I don't like any of the music,
I was
but
gonna
I
say the music
liked
is bad. That's what I was getting to.
yeah, there's not a single song in the movie that I enjoyed, but I liked seeing Zoe Saldana specifically perform some of them.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it's like there's the
Like the
I,
physical performance was
what's
nice
that
to
song?
watch.
It's like there's this there's a big like it's like kind of like Zoe Saldana's like big kind of centerpiece like dance like song number. And it's like da 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 da. It's kind of like
Right.
what the melody of it, and she's doing like this big dance, and it's like that song I think is written really poorly,
Yeah.
and just like musically is written really poorly. But she's going like 150% on
Yeah.
those dance moves.
No, I
Um,
agree. And that I mean, and we could talk about it now because I think we're kind of in agreement is that like she's the highlight of the movie, really. It's like if in the on the subject of Oscar talk, if there was a most deserving Oscar for this movie, it would be her. I think we could agree.
Yeah, the idea of this getting nominated out for anything else outside of Zoe Saldana's performance is so it's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's a ridiculous
I
world we live
wonder
in.
if there's even like like because it's like it's so strange that it even has the love that it does that I just like I could almost picture so easily a world in which like this is one of those movies like because like last year Netflix had what was it the other Coleman Domingo movie Rustin
Yes.
and then they also had the
I didn't watch Rustin, but people said that movie was bad.
it is
Um,
bad, but it's like but that kind of movie is like a very typical Oscar movie. It's kind of like the bad like or the bad or mediocre movie where like nothing about the movie is really praised except for this like one lead performance that gets an Oscar nomination, right? Like it's like lone Oscar nomination. And this feels like it should be like this year's version of one of those movies. Like there's always like kind of like an acting nomination where it's like, oh, this movie doesn't get any other Oscar nominations, but it gets like thrown a bone in like one of the acting categories where somebody gives a great performance. This feels like it should be like this year's kind of like Rustin or one of those movies, like where I can't think of I forget the name of the other one from last year where it's like the about the swimmer. It's
oh fuck, what's it called?
you know the one. Owen always made jokes about it when we did Oscar pods,
Yeah.
but I can't remember
Who's the actress in it?
the name right now. I can't. Oh my god!
Oh
I
God,
now
this is
now we
so
need to like
embarrassing. Okay,
20. Wait, so what was it?
swimming movie. Naiad.
Naiad. There you go.
Yes,
Like
with Annette
Naiad was the
Bening and
same
Jodie
kind of movie
Foster.
where yeah, Annette Bening and Jodie Foster getting nominations for that movie. It was like, oh, I mean, the rest of the movie's not very impressive in any way, and probably but the performances, sure. And this feels like it should be this year's Naiad. Like it's like give Zoe Saldana an Oscar nomination and then throw the rest of the movie away. And yet it is projected to get like 10 nomination or like 8 nominations or something like some crazy high number and it's just like where is that coming from because in any other year you would think it's exactly that it's like a movie that gets the acting nomination and then gets thrown away.
The Academy
um
is so unserious.
it's so silly. And can I say while we're on the subject of it, Selena Gomez is awful in this movie.
Selena Gomez is bad, I would say.
Just
It's
like
funny. There's Stan Twitter is so funny because like so you're probably I don't know how much of like Stan pop stuff you see on your timeline on social
not too
media.
much. I mean, other than like the stuff that applies to some of the artists that I'm a big fan of. Like I guess I see like a lot of like Chapel Roan tweets or something, but I'm not very much on Selena Gomez Twitter.
Well, it's like there's like people are like talking about so Selena Gomez is an Emilia Perez. Selena Gomez was a huge pop star, still very famous though. Um, Ariana Grande, you can
Isn't
make an
Wicked
argument
right? Oh,
it's the
I know what
second
you're
biggest
about to
pop star
refer
in the
to.
world.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of people that are like that are saying like, bro, I can't believe people are saying Ariana Grande is a better actor than Selena Gomez, and like posting
Yeah.
just like out of context Emilia Perez clips where she's just like overacting and not being
Oh,
very
well,
good.
I thought you were gonna refer to the fact that, like okay, so I don't know if I remember this correctly, but wasn't there some sort of beef between Ariana Grande and Selena Gomez? Or am I mistaken? I don't know.
Probably. Oh, I don't know. I'm not in the weeds that
If
much.
there was, I think what I thought you were talking about is that, like, people are saying it would be funny if, like, in that supporting actress race, the reason why Selena Gomez does not get the nomination is because Ariana Grande gets it for Wicked, and then, like,
Oh,
the beef is kind of, like,
imagine Ariana
reignited, you know what
Grande
I
gets
mean?
nominated for Wicked.
Imagine. Wait till we get to the o she's going to, is my take.
What?
I listen, we'll get there in a second, but let's kind
What
of
the
wrap up the
fuck?
Emilia Perez talk before we get there.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I want to. Maybe we'll talk about it in the Oscars about Carla's performance, but
no, I mean
it's.
we you could say it. Yeah, I mean it's
I
like
just. I don't
I
think
think
it's
it's
a
a
very good performance, but
I think
it's
it's a
not a
good
really.
performance, but I think
She
it's a
seems like
good
a fine
performance
actor,
because yeah, I think it's a
actress.
good performance because she has to do something really difficult in the movie. It's a
It
difficult
is
character to
an
play,
impossible character to
but
play. I like straight up. It is
yes.
an impossible character to play. Um.
However, what I will say is that like on the subject of like the Oscars of it all, if her performance is knocking out somebody like a Marianne Jean-Baptiste in Hard Truths, like, I just think that is very clearly, like, head and shoulders better than Carla Sofia Gascon. That's
You
not to
think it's a
say that
little
it's a
woke? There's some wokeness going on.
that's not at all what I said, but
It's kind of what you're
I just
implying. You're implying that
no,
the
that's not what
Academy might be
I'm
too
saying.
woke.
What I'm saying is if I was picking 5 Best Actress nominees, I don't think she would be on my list of 5, but I think
No,
I still
no,
like the performance
no.
enough to say that it's like, you know, it's one of the better ones, but I just don't think it it's like at the very height of Best Actress performances this year, even against some of the people who will be nominated, the Mikey Madison, the Angelina Jolie, like it's like I prefer those performances to this one. Um but I don't know. I think I might be a little bit higher on it than you, I guess. Like I still think it's a good performance. I just
I think
it's
well,
not like
she
my
seems
favorite
like
thing
a
in the world.
fine actress. It's just it's like it's such a bad role that I think it might be
Yeah,
impossible
it
to
weighs
have a
it
good
down a little bit.
performance
Which is
in.
like my kind of like I don't know if you agree with this because this is actually a conversation I just had the other night when we were seeing Gladiator 2. But like and I guess you would disagree with this because of how much you like Zoe Saldana. But I genuinely like nothing kind of annoys me more than that type of movie I was referring to earlier, which is like the bad movie that still gets an Oscar nomination. Like I would almost wish that like because there's so many good movies that come out every year, like I wish that like just the good movies got Oscar nominated in any category. You know what I mean? Like I don't like
I
the movie
agree,
where it's
of
like
course.
bad movie where it gets an acting nominated. Like it's like I don't want to see an actor in a shit movie get nominated for an Oscar. I'd like it to go to a good movie. You
Of
know, like it's
course.
like
No, of course I
I don't
agree with
know.
that.
That's
Zoe
yeah, that's
Saldana,
kind of
one of
my
my favorite
thing.
actresses, she's not really in a lot of actually good movies.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Um
yeah, but
yeah, it's tough. I got what you mean. But it's like, yeah, I you know, like as good as she is, which
mhm.
I think she's great. It's like I would prefer if she just doesn't even get nominated at all because I really don't like the movie.
No,
But of
ideal
course that's,
situation, Amelia
you know,
Perez gets 0 nominations, and then
yeah.
Furiosa gets 15. Like,
Sure, yeah. Anyway, we'll get back to this movie a little bit when we get to the Oscars talk, but our final movie, which I think we'll probably spend the least amount of time on because I don't know that this is like a movie that entirely warrants a ton of conversation, is Blitz, the new Steve McQueen movie. Um, it is another movie that I saw at the tail end of New York Film Festival. Actually, the last movie I saw attending New York Film Festival. And Doug just saw it today, so you're a
yeah.
little bit more fresh in your mind once again. But I remember most of this movie. Uh, I thought it was fine. I The difference I think between the two of us is that you kind of expected it to be fine, whereas like I went into this with very high hopes because I'm quite a fan of Steve McQueen's other work, and not to mention Saoirse Ronan is in it, who was like pretty much my favorite actress, and like, and so
Yeah.
there's a lot there for me to look forward to, and it was pretty disappointing for me. Um, I will say specifically the thing that disappoints me is just like this is not the kind of movie I thought it was going to be, and
What did you think it
I
was going to be like then?
okay, so here's the thing. Remember when we did our kind of like anticipated draft or like when we talked about the year's movies earlier on, and this movie, there was no story for this movie when we were talking about it
Oh,
way
okay.
earlier in the
Okay, okay.
year. And so I knew it as the Saoirse Ronan Harris Dickinson movie directed by Steve McQueen,
Oh,
which
no, that's
sounds
not what it is.
like an amazing movie. And I am here to tell you
Harris
guys,
Dickinson has like
we're not gonna spoil
5
this movie
lines of
because
dialogue
yeah,
in
I
this
was gonna say
movie.
this movie is not, I don't think like super accessible for everybody yet because I don't think it's streaming on Apple TV yet. But or maybe it
No,
is.
it's
I don't
I
know.
think it's still
But
playing in it's
yeah,
streaming by the time this it's streaming by very shortly after when this episode comes out.
yeah. Um, but so I'm not gonna like we don't even really have to do like major spoilers for this movie.
There's
But
like we don't need to. There's
yeah, but the thing I will say is that Harris Dickinson is in the movie for about 4 minutes.
he
And so
literally has it's actually crazy how much his character doesn't do anything.
yeah, and so that was the thing where it's like I didn't realize that this would be a movie pretty much almost entirely led by Elliot Heffernan, this child actor who I will say is lovely in the role, like very good child acting performance considering how like the whole movie weighs on him. I mean, it follows him almost the entire time. So like he has to do a lot in that role. It's just like that is not the movie that I thought I was getting way earlier in the year. Of course, like that's not to say that I can't still like the movie, but the other thing I don't like about it, this kind of like uh narrative. Again, there's probably a name for this that I'm just not thinking of, but like that, we kind of talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned like this narrative where it's just like character that goes from like place to place and like can't escape like bad things happening to them, and it's just like kind of like
Yeah,
an endless story of bad things. Like that kind of narrative just like really almost never works for me. Like
really.
Honora, we talked about it on the Honora thing, and it's like Honora is kind of one of those movies towards the second half, and it did work in that movie. But
Yeah,
but
this whole
Blitz is just
movie
like not that. Like it's like this it's about this boy who is just running and running because he was stranded
yeah.
in during World War II.
The movie
Um
starts with him at home, then he gets away from home and he's lost, and the movie ends with
and the
him.
whole movie is him trying to find
Yeah,
his way back home. And so for
yeah.
2 hours, we watch this child kind of go through like every possible obstacle imaginable. And movies like I don't know. I really don't like I get dragged down by movies like that. Not because of like the subject matter, but because like I just like I get impatient with movies like that where it's like just kind of like all these like kind of like little scenarios a character finds themselves in this type of movie are just like not super interesting to me always. And
It's
I don't think that other people
interesting.
have that problem.
It's
um
interesting that this is an Apple TV Plus original film because I feel like a producer at Apple TV Plus would read the Steve McQueen script and maybe try to repitch it to him as a TV show.
yes,
Because like this narrative style is very episodic. It's like, oh,
yeah,
so it's like he's at home, it's the setup, here's why he leaves home, here's why he gets lost, here's the first group that he meets, here's the second group that he meets, here's the
exactly,
third group
yeah.
that he
It
meets, and
felt
here's the
like I mean I
resolution.
said it in my review, but it was like it felt like I was watching several long episodes of television. Which is crazy because the movie is only 2 hours long. It felt so long in the
Dude, this
moment
movie
because
felt so fucking
this
long.
type of movie feels so long to me every time. That's what I mean. Like it's like I just it just like weighs on me so much. I just like I can't. I it's very rare for me to get behind this kind of movie, and I just and the problem is that I don't think the movie is good enough to make it worth it.
Yeah. There
Like Honora in Honora's case, like I said, like it's like that. It worked for me that time because I liked Honora enough, but like this is just not
This
that.
movie is very humorless. So you have to kind of like, it's like, listen, if you like something like this, like literally just look at the poster. Look at the poster and read the synopsis, and like you'll know if you like the movie or not before you watch it. I think. Like
Yeah.
maybe I'm crazy, but like it's like because like the poster kind of captures the vibe pretty well, and then it's like, oh, are you interested in the setting? Because that's the whole movie. It's a pretty humorless, pretty serious look at the Blitz that happened during World War II in London from the perspective of a lost child, a lost black child, I should say. And it's yeah, it's kind of sad and really serious.
Yeah.
Um,
And I don't know. I listen, like I said, I'm a huge fan of Steve McQueen. This doesn't like maybe I'm just misinterpreting the movie. Maybe there's something I'm missing, but this doesn't feel like his like strongest in terms of what I know he's capable of, like based on the other stuff that
I
I've
saw
seen from him.
somebody. Oh, it
Um,
was David Elric. He said that this felt like Steve McQueen's most anonymous film so far.
yeah, like I don't know. It just feels like Steve McQueen, but Apple TV. It's like you know what I mean. It's like this is the same way we feel when lots of our favorite directors make like a kind of like a big streaming project, and it's like oh, it's like it just feels like this guy made a movie for Netflix or whatever. It's like this that's what it feels like. This feels like Steve McQueen made a movie for Apple TV, and I'm like I don't want the Steve McQueen movie made for Apple TV. I want the other Steve McQueen movies. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know.
I will say I don't dislike the movie. I really don't dislike the movie.
No,
Um,
I don't dislike it either. It's just like I feel
my
so down the middle about it. Like it's just like fine, you know, like
to
in
be
all
honest,
aspects.
my biggest hurdle with the movie is that I am just kind of fundamentally like not interested in the subject matter. I'm like not interested in World War II London.
Yeah.
Like that's just not something that I just have a natural interest in, and the movie doesn't really do any legwork to make it more interesting than it really was, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like immediately there's like a separation for me on the movie where it's like I can't fully get as invested beyond just like, oh, I hope nothing bad happens to these characters, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
And I just the other like one of the other obstacles for me was like kind of like again like how TV it all felt because like specifically because of like some of these places we go to are just so like cartoony. Like I love Stephen Graham. Stephen Graham awesome actor. I get excited every time
it
he
was so
shows up in
ridiculous.
anything. That whole like
It was so
section subplot, I was
ridiculous.
like, it's like you know, like I think he's. I would even still say Stephen Graham is great in the movie because anytime he acts, I'm just like this guy rocks. But
That
it felt like I
subplot
was
really
watching.
felt like an episode of a TV show,
That's what I'm
specifically
saying.
that
Like it's
part.
like I've seen Stephen Graham in Peaky Blinders. You know, I've seen him in like these other things, and I'm like, it felt like I was watching Stephen Graham do some fucking TV ass acting, and in like a TV ass written moment. Like it was just like it was so television, and I was like, that's so boring to me. Like I just like I cannot invest in that at all. And I know we're like we're shitting on TV a lot this episode, but it's like I
Hey,
love when I watch good TV. The problem is that like bad TV fucking hurts, dude. Like it's like
well,
when
it's
you're
just, bro,
watching stuff that is just like okay TV. Like okay TV is not for me. You show me great TV, I'll have the time of my life.
but also
But
TV and movies are different things, and TV isn't
yeah,
designed to be watched in a movie theater. TV
exactly.
is
And it's
designed to
like
be watched
and when
on your
I'm sitting in
laptop.
like a New York Film Festival screening and I feel like I'm watching an Apple TV original,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not what I that's not what the environment I want to be in. That's not how I want to feel. I want to like be transported in a way that this just kind of never really achieves. I mean, you know, like it's like there's Steve McQueen things in here where I'm like, yeah, it's you know, like it's not all bad. It's not like it's like kind of like we talked about with Conclave. Like it's a totally competent movie. It's just like so not for me. Like at least Conclave was like a competent movie that I'm like interested in, like subject matter wise and entertained by, and all of these things. And this movie is kind of like the opposite, where it's like a perfectly competent movie that does not capture any of my interests really. Um, and that's a big obstacle. You know, I on the subject of like Oscar talk, we're gonna talk about its like best picture things in a second, but like Saoirse Ronan has kind of been uh running in two separate categories here this year for this movie and The Outrun. The Outrun neither of us have seen,
Right.
but it seems like the narrative shift is kind of becoming that she probably can't get a nomination for The Outrun, and so she's going to petition hard to get a nomination for this movie. And Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen The Outrun yet, but I could totally see that happening. I mean, that makes sense. I don't think there's a ton of looking at, like, who the potential best supporting actress nominees are compared to the best lead actress nominees. I don't think Saoirse would struggle to get into that field of 5 as much for
Yeah.
this movie.
My kind of
Um,
commentary on this is that it's obviously not a bad performance, right? But it's not like exceptional, you know. It's not
sure.
something to like I don't think that it's something to be I don't think Saoirse Ronan needs to be celebrated necessarily for her commanding screen presence in Blitz. Uh
Yeah, I don't know. I really liked her in the movie, to be fair.
she's
I
good. She's
again
good.
again,
She's
I'm
good.
biased because, like I said
Yeah.
earlier, she's, like, one of my favorite actresses. Like, I'm gonna like it's, like, kinda like the Paul Mescal thing with Gladiator 2. Like, it's like I was gonna just I'm bound to like some of these performances regardless because I just you almost can't separate how much you like somebody, when you really like an actor. You can't
Mhm.
really even tell when they're doing their worst because you're so, like, enamored by their screen presence because of what you already associate with them, that it's hard to tell, like, just how good they are in something sometimes. Um, so yeah, like, I don't know. I thought she was great in it, but I don't. Again, it's like, would I need this movie to pick up any Oscar nominations? Not really. Like, it's fine if it doesn't get any, but
I want to
um,
say before we stop talking about this movie,
mhm,
that there's a point where our young man, Elliot Heffernan,
yeah,
uh, he like opens up the curtains and the fucking blitzkrieg is happening, and it's a perspective shot where we're seeing it from
yes,
his like first person perspective, and he looks up in the sky and it's all the fucking lights and planes and shit is
yeah.
happening, and I'm like, that's a fucking incredible shot.
That's what I
That
meant.
was
That's
really
what I meant.
special.
Where I was like, there are some Steve McQueen things in here where I'm like, this is a good directed movie. Like, it's like there's some moments in here where you're like, oh, you're watching a really impressive movie, and then, like, the story just weighs it down for me. Is the problem? Like, it's like I'm just not all there. But it's like, but then there's a couple moments where I'm like, oh, this is really cool stuff that I just, like, wish was in a movie I cared about more.
Yeah.
But that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah. No, I mean, Steve McQueen, I think he said in a Q&A that the reason he wanted to make this was because or the reason why he made some of these decisions was that he thinks that war is bad, and he wanted to show like war from the perspective of a child to kind of frame this as like objectively horrible. And I'm like, all
Right.
right,
Yeah, and I mean, that's,
yeah.
like, in many ways, that's, like, topical in a way that could give it an Oscar narrative, of course. Um, Whether it gets, like, pushed over the edge there, I don't know, because it's not, like, the heaviest hitter of all the options, um like, subject matter wise, that, like, child's perspective of war is obviously, like, super topical. So I don't know. Yeah, I could sympathize with that. I just don't, and it's not, when I say that I'm not interested in the subject matter, I don't specifically mean that part of it. Like, it's like, I think Elliot Heffernan's great in the movie. I would gladly watch that type of movie, like a child's perspective on war, but it just, like, it doesn't all come together for me in a way that I cared about a ton.
Mhm.
Um, and that happens. But that's Blitz. Okay. We won't spend a ton of time on Oscar talk here. I will kind of just do our normal reminder now because, just to give some a look into the future. We are not doing any news this episode. We're gonna kind of replace the news this time with our Oscar talk, and so I'll tell people now to kind of, share some feedback if you like listening to us talk about any of those three movies. You can like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. You can rate the episode on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can follow us at all of the links in the episode description. But now to just, like, kind of touch on some Oscar stuff. We won't spend a ton of time here, and we're not going to go category by category. I kind of really just wanted to talk about, like, best picture stuff here, and maybe we could mention other categories for any of these movies that we go over. But what I've done is kind of gone through the field and put all of the potential best picture nominees into, like, tiers here, and I think we could kind of just, like, go through the tiers. Um so obviously up front, and the tier that we need to talk about the least, I guess, is what I've just named The Locks. I think these are the 5 movies that are, like, pretty surefire Best Picture, uh, nominees. If you want to push back on any of these 5, feel free, but this is what I've named The Locks, which
Okay.
is Anora, The Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez, and Dune Part 2.
You think Amelia Perez is a lock for Best Picture?
I just I mean, again, we're doing this in this moment, in the middle of November. Do I think it could fall out of the race when people keep shitting on it over and over again? Yeah, but like people shit on plenty of movies that are Oscar favorites way ahead of time, that doesn't dissuade the Oscar voters. Like I don't think that the average Oscar voter is entirely changing their mind about this movie because of what people are saying about it on Twitter. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think a movie
No,
with this
I
much
know.
like
It's just like
steam behind
baffling.
it. I know, but you know what I mean? It's like I don't think it's gonna lose steam just because people are posting out of context clips on Twitter and being like, "This movie is dumb." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that that matters for the Oscar voters.
So
Yeah,
you
maybe
said
maybe in January when the nominations come out, it could be different. But
you said Honora,
The
Conclave, The
Brutalist,
Brutalist.
Conclave,
Okay.
Amelia Perez, and Dune Part Two.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Locks for sure. For sure. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, the other four I think are pretty definite. I guess Amelia Perez is the biggest. We could bump Amelia Perez down a tier if you want, if you really
No,
think
it's
it's
fine. I
like.
mean, you know more than I do. I think.
No, I mean, again, this is like again, like we're in the middle of November. It's like, yeah, who knows? Maybe Amelia Perez gets shit on so much for the next month that it loses all hopes at a Best Picture nomination. I just don't like know if that's realistic. But so for right now, I would probably just lean towards calling it a lock. But I don't know, especially because like multiple acting nominations, like it's like Zoe Saldana is going to get nominated, Carlos Sofia Gascon probably is going to get nominated, and so like when you have that behind a movie, it's like yeah, it'll probably get a Best Picture nomination. Maybe it'll like underperform. Maybe it'll get like less nominations than we expected, but I feel like
right.
it's probably still a lock. Anyway, the next category I have is probable, which is only 2 movies, and this is like kind of our tier below lock, where it's like I'm pretty confident these movies are going to get nominated, but I'm not confident enough to call them a lock yet. And these 2 movies are Sing Sing and you're not going to like this, Wicked.
Right. Okay. I think Sing Sing should probably be a lock, right? Or as it fallen out of like a Oscar favor.
It is what my understanding is that it has lost steam as time has passed,
Yeah, I mean, I haven't
but
fucking seen the movie. I would like,
yeah,
I
my
would have
understanding
seen
is that
it.
it's lost steam since time has passed, but not enough to be like out of the race. Like, but like it should still. I mean, Coleman Domingo's still going to get nominated. Like other things are still going to happen, um, but I wouldn't call it a lock. I could easily like see a world in which it's not one of the 10, specifically because of like the weird rollout that they had where like people were just like not able to watch it and it wasn't advertised very well, and who knows which Oscar voters are going to be thinking about it when it comes time to uh pick these nominees. But yeah, I would put it in the probable tier for now. And then the story with Wicked is that it is the opposite of Sing Sing and that it is gaining momentum right now more and more towards its release. And obviously that could change because the movie comes out next weekend in theaters. And so when people see it, if everybody hates it, um, then maybe that changes things immediately. But right now, it feels like everybody is not going to hate it. It feels like it's got like Oscar Best Picture nominee written all over it because it is like the movie in this field, I guess you could say, that is like just straight up fun and feels good, which like Oscar voters do tend to like, especially if the rest I like it's like if the Brutalist is going to be nominated, then people are going to want something to counteract the Brutalist, and Wicked is like
Wicked is the
it
anti-brutalist. It's the brutalist antidote.
I mean, it's like a fucking musical that makes people feel good and smile and stuff, and it's gonna be like, and it's funny. Like people are gonna laugh at
I
it.
wanna be
They're gonna all the
popular.
songs are gonna get stuck in their head. Like it's like I don't know. It just very much feels like
No, it's a
I
big
don't
deal.
see
It's a
I
big
don't see a
deal.
world in which it's like not a Best Picture nominee at this moment in time. I guess that could change after it comes out next weekend and I actually see the movie.
Yeah.
But like if I were picking the Best Picture nominees in this very second, I wouldn't even hesitate to pick Wicked as one of the 10. Especially because, and this is I was actually talking to our friends about this just earlier, but the big thing I think here is that like other than Wicked, all the movies I named and Dune Part 2, I guess, are not very like commercial. And it's like the Oscars want people to watch the Oscars, and Wicked has like watching the Oscars all over it. Like Ariana Grande will be in
I
attendance, like they will be singing songs from the movie at the Oscars. Like it's like it has like
Yeah, it'll probably get nominated.
it will help
Yeah.
viewership, you know?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like cuz
yeah.
Dune Part 2 as much as it was a big deal, I don't think is enough to help like boost the viewership when the rest of the field is like The Brutalist and Anora. It's like Anora's the front runner. Ultimately, not that many people have seen Anora or even know about it, you know? So it's like, yeah, I think something like Wicked would be good because the average person wants a movie to root for. Like the average person wants a movie to turn on the Oscars for.
The
And
median
so
voter wants the one of the three movies they watched to
yes, exactly. And so Wicked feels like that movie. So I put it in the probable tier. And then next up, that's 7 movies we just named, by the way. So next up, I have On the Bubble, which is like kind of like those last couple spots in the Best Picture race. And I have 6 movies here. So I feel like our exercise could be kind of picking 3 to keep and 3 to get rid of. This is like where it gets interesting because those 7 we kind of like are like the favored ones. And like these last remaining 6 on the bubble, I feel like we could have some fun trying to guess what the 3 would be.
right.
So these 6 movies are A Real Pain, Gladiator 2, Nickel Boys, September 5, Blitz, and A Complete Unknown.
Oh, and we need to pick three.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So
What
I
if
think.
you say your three and then I'll say my three because I already have it in my head.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to say A Real Pain, Nickel Boys, and I'm a little bit torn between September 5 and A Complete Unknown, but I guess I would lean towards A Complete Unknown. I don't know. Or Blitz. I guess it could be Blitz. I mean, Blitz has I don't know. I
I
don't think it's
think
Gladiator 2.
I don't think it's Gladiator 2 either. I think that it's going to be A Real Pain, September 5, and A Complete Unknown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's my thing with Nickel Boys, right? Is that movie is so good, first of all.
Yeah, no, it's great.
That movie is so good. And I just feel like I don't know, maybe this is hopeful, but I just feel like when it gets like, not
I'm
right
gonna be
now, but like
honest, the
super
movie
close.
is too good to be nominated for Best
Yes,
Picture.
that is kind of like the narrative. Is like it's almost too good for them to make the right decision here. And so
It's like
I'm kind of
it's
being
so good that it kind of alien. Well, not even good. It's just so specific that it alienates people, like certain
yes,
people with certain tastes.
exactly. And so I'm being kind of hopeful here and like praying that for some reason they just get it right. Where it's like I almost want because it's like I feel like obviously they got like the way that Oscar voting works is that these people get a chance to like watch some of these movies right before uh the nominations come out. And so like I don't know, I just feel like they could kind of like show this like I feel like enough people might see this movie and just be like maybe we should like get behind this one. Like it's one of the great movies of the year and it's like I don't know, maybe more topical post election. Obviously, that's the other thing I was thinking of is that like the election just happened. Most Oscar voters did not get the result that they want, right? And so, like that kind of you would think influences some of the picks that they make here, where it's like they're going to pick movies that are like very politically relevant. And Nickel Boys, you can't miss it, like it's
I
like
think that's why Conclave is going to win Best Picture, bro.
I agree that Conclave has very good odds, but in terms of just like these movies, like, it's like Gladiator 2 is not quite that. I mean, it is. It's like Gladiator 2 is about, like, uh, like, this the dream of
Bro,
Rome and, like,
I'm gonna say
and
I haven't
making
seen the
it
movie
like
yet. I was saying this before, where I was confused as to why people are saying Gladiator 2 is gonna get nominated for so many awards. Uh, I think your average fucking person, even like your average Academy voter, probably thinks that Ridley Scott's a little washed. You know,
yeah,
I think
maybe,
that is
yeah.
a little bit of the sentiment, and I'm like, bro, when's the last time a Ridley Scott movie was nominated for Best Picture? It's not like this is him coming back to directing movies. He never stopped making movies, you
Yeah.
know.
I think I can we agree, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think out of these 6, if we had to pick, like, the biggest lock, it's A Real Pain, I think.
Maybe, yeah, probably. I mean, I think that A Complete Unknown is kind of, I don't know. I have a feeling
I don't feel that the problem with that one is that one's a big question mark, you
nobody's seen it
know?
yet. Nobody's seen it yet.
Yeah, that one's the big question mark. Like, the other movies, we could kinda, like the thing with A Real Pain is that I watched A Real Pain yesterday, and I was like, "Yeah, this says Oscar written all over it." Like, it's the type of movie that they would want to support. It also is a I guess it's like I don't know. It just feels like the kind of movie they would get behind, and it's a good story for them as well. Like Jesse Eisenberg, being kind of like a new writer director, like they kind of like to lift somebody up like that, and giving Jesse Eisenberg some credit, could be good. I don't know. I mean, it's going to get nominated, of course, in supporting actor for Kieran Culkin. That's a lock if we're talking about locks. So it's like, and it's good, and I feel like it would get nominated for screenplay, and so like it's already picking up like a surefire kind of like 2 nominations. Um, so it doesn't have a long way to go until getting Best Picture nomination. Like it's like you pick up a couple nominations in a couple categories, and all of a sudden you're a Best Picture nominee. Um,
Yeah, no, I think that it probably will be nominated. I also, yeah, no, I
the
agree.
thing with Gladiator 2 is that in all these like kind of like technical categories, like the Dune Part 2
I was gonna say,
of it
are people
all.
gonna Dune and Gladiator are both gonna get nominated? People thought that was in play.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like I don't know. But well because no, specifically because it's not Dune Part 2 and Gladiator, it's Dune Part 2 Wicked and Gladiator 2.
Yeah,
So
I
it's like
mean, pack it
that's
up. This isn't
2
happening. This isn't
that's 2
happening.
big I think only 2 of those 3 movies could be Best Picture nominees. Like it's
Also,
like
I think Gladiator 2 is about to underperform next week. We'll see
I
next week. I
agree.
think it's about to
I
underperform.
I agree. I think it's gonna make not as much money as we
Dude,
were hoping.
it's a Ridley Scott movie in 2024. I like
Yeah.
Ridley Scott, but it's like I'm not normal, you know? Like
Yeah. No, I get it. So, like, okay, I'd cross out Gladiator 2 then, we'd keep A Real Pain, and I don't know, I really feel like Nickel Boys somehow is gonna, like, find a way back into the conversation, like, I
I would
just
like that. That would be really cool. I mean, be for real. You know, like what I mean?
okay, so what so A Complete Unknown is a question mark, and we'd throw it in there.
That's what
Well,
I would do,
the story for
but
A Complete Unknown is, like, James Mangold, like, it's, like, a guy who the Oscars would very easily but, like, similar to what I was saying with,
something
Jesse
about Bob
Eisenberg.
Dylan. People like Bob Dylan.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it, you're right, yeah. Okay,
And
so
it's
Complete
Timothy
Unknown,
Chalamet.
Real Pain, and then between Blitz and September 5, it's kinda we haven't seen September 5, it comes out soon. Um, it
Yeah.
also seems like a Best Picture kinda movie. The problem is it feels like all of the stuff that it captures is, like, already captured by other movies in the field, you know what I mean? It's like, it's the whole movie is mostly people talking in rooms, which is what Conclave is, and it also appeals to the same demographic as Conclave. Like I've seen Conclave twice in theaters with a like full of old people, and they both times they played the September 5 trailer, and then that same group of
But
old people
September
went nuts
5
after the trailer played.
but
Um,
September 5 is more of a thriller than Conclave. Conclave
sure.
isn't like fast paced, like, oh, like what it's more like Conclave is kind of just like, oh, what's gonna happen? And it's like, oh, it's kind of
Yeah.
unfolding. September 5 is like, it's like everybody's holding their breath. That's what it looks like in
Yeah.
the trailer, at least.
I don't know. My thing is though is like if September 5 is just like my this is my hope. Again, this is why I'm hopeful. Let's say it's a complete unknown and a real pain is like two of the locks for this category. The reason why I'm hopeful for Nickel Boys is that I feel like September 5 and Blitz are both going to be received as just like average movies, whereas like a lot of the people will be like, yeah, Nickel Boys is like this audacious, like great movie, except for the people who hate it, which I don't think will be like a ton of the Oscar voters. Like I think
No,
people
I
will
don't
be
even think
like,
that as people will hate it. I think that a lot of people in the Academy that watch it will just be like, you know, it's
I don't
not
know. I
my
just feel like
thing.
they're.
It's not
I
my
just feel like they're gonna be like, oh, this is important, or whatever. Like they're gonna be like, this is important. It's like, let's
I think
do it.
maybe the fact that the book is so popular is part of what might like
I don't
that
know.
might
I'm just
help it
saying,
a
if
little
I
bit.
was gonna pick my three out of this six, it would include Nickel Boys. But I know you don't want to. But at least we could kind of agree on
No,
a real pain
we
and a
could
complete
include Nickel
unknown.
Boys if we have to come to a joint a
I mean, we
union
don't have to.
here.
There's no rules here. This is just like a
But no,
fun
I wouldn't. I
activity.
don't. I just
But
because I don't think Nickel Boys is gonna get nominated, bro. I think
yeah,
Blitz has a better chance than Nickel Boys.
yeah, that's fair. I do have a final tier here below that one, which is just kind of long shots, but you can't count them out yet. Like it's like there's still some world, but not really. But we could kind of talk on these movies, which is I have five movies here. You're gonna roll.
Is season 2 of Special Ops Lioness in this long shot
It
tier?
is not. No, there
Okay.
you're gonna roll your eyes at two of these movies, but the other three we could talk about with some level of importance. So the five movies I have in long shot, but you can't count them out, is The Piano Lesson, The Substance, The Wild Robot, Nosferatu, and Juror Number Two.
Okay, not turn number 2 is ridiculous.
No, you don't have to play a movie in a ton of theaters to have awards consideration. I don't think it will ultimately get awards consideration, but
You have to
like
campaign for awards, bro.
they said they were going to.
Oh, I don't know. That feels ridiculous. Maybe it's not. I
They said
pro
they were going to, and the narrative for like Clint's last movie is not. It's like it's there. Like the campaign for them to get the movie nominated for something exists. I don't think. Like I said, this is the long shot category. This is like none of these movies will probably end up getting nominated, but it's like you have to at least consider the narrative that they have to get nominated. And I think that Juror Number Two has a pretty obvious one, which is that Clint Eastwood is 400 years old, and they would and
yes.
they want and they would want to give him an Oscar to end to cap off a career.
I would also add I would also add Baby Girl. You can't count it out. You can't count
You
it
can't
out.
count it out.
You
Well,
can't count it out.
if we're doing that, then I would also add The Seed of the Sacred Fig, which is like if they want to throw in
Fuck
another
it. Fuck it. You
no,
can't
because
count
you
it
know what I
out.
mean. Because it's like if they want to throw in another international nomination, like there's not really this list that we've read is not very international at all. Their international representation is Emilia Perez, which
A
like
French movie that takes place in Mexico.
yes, but because it's like such a front runner, I guess you could say they probably could just be like, oh, that's all we need. Um, and it's like a Netflix movie, so it's like lots of people will watch it, and so like maybe they'll think that they don't need to nominate anything. But if that Oscars voting body is like, hey, maybe we should like throw in a second international nominee here, then it seems like the strongest case would be for The Seed of the Sacred Fig. So I feel like it's a long shot, but it's not a 0% chance.
You can't count
Um,
it out. Honest to
yeah,
God, the substance might get nominated, bro. I
yeah,
mean,
that's what I'm saying.
like
I'm like,
that's
I
what's
put it on
crazy.
this list because I was like, I feel like there's like a sneaky little chance here that the substance gets like a little bit of momentum. I don't know. It doesn't have it quite yet, but like people are watching that fucking movie and talking about people. My friend a couple days ago texted me, who I haven't talked to him in like months now, I guess. And he texted me and he goes, hey, have you seen the substance? And I'm like, fuck, dude. I'm like,
Dude,
people are
I
talking
got
about the movie and
multiple
watching
texts
it.
like that. I got multiple have you seen the substance texts
Yeah, that's what I'm
from
saying. And it's
multiple
like if
people.
that's the case for us, then that is definitely the case for Oscar voters. Like it's like these Oscar voters who like oftentimes don't get to see a ton of movies because they're working on movies are finding themselves going to the theater only a couple times a year, and all they hear people talking about is like, hey, have you seen The Substance yet? It's like, yeah, maybe they get behind it, but I don't know. It seems like it seems like a little bit too, and again, this isn't a movie that I liked very much, but it feels like the case for it to get a Best Picture nominee is a little too hopeful. Like assuming that like the average Oscar voter is really gonna vibe with the substance is I think we're reaching a little bit, you know what I mean? Because it's
Mhm.
like I don't know that the internet culture, again, it's like internet culture on Emilia Perez, for example, like we were saying, is like so negative. And then it's like, yeah, but it'll probably get a bunch of Oscar nominations. So it's like internet culture is not exactly a one for one with what the Oscar voters think. And so it's like, even if the substance is kind of doing numbers among people we know and all over the internet, I don't know if that means that like the average Oscar voter is going to watch it and not be like totally turned off by it. You know what I mean? Which I think it's probably more likely that they just would be. Um, so yeah, I don't know. And then the piano lesson is just like a movie. I still haven't seen it. I want to watch it. I'm sure I'm gonna like it. And it's just been kind of floated around all year as like like one of these Oscar movies, and like there's people involved in it who everybody likes, and it's gonna get an acting nomination, of course. So it's like it's already on its way there because of Danielle Deadweiler, who is like pretty much I think a lock to get nominated in the supporting actress category. And yeah, I don't know. And plus, it's directed by Malcolm Washington, who is
Mhm.
Denzel's son. So it's like that's a again like kind of that like narrative of like propping up like newer directors. It's like a real pain, Nickel Boys, and then this movie where it's like if the Oscars wanted to kind of like pick like a up and coming director to like kind of give them some credit, then you could see it. The Wild Robot I just like threw in here, but I'm like, there's no way. I mean, I don't really see it happening. I don't. It's because the thing is like so many people like the movie. Like so many
Yeah.
people
It's
have been
possible.
talking
It's kind
about
of
it.
it's that one's tough because we need to see all these campaigns kind of start shaping up
Yeah,
when they start doing academy screenings of movies that are, and stuff, but
yeah,
The
and
Wild Robot
then
I don't think is impossible either. It's just it's hard to talk about it because then it's like, oh, something that we think is kind of locky is gonna get a little unlocked. you
yeah,
know.
no, of course. I mean, that's the thing. That's the reason why we do like multiple of these Oscar episodes is because like stuff's gonna change, but it's fun to talk about it in a vacuum and in the moment. Um, and then I guess on that subject, the last movie we haven't touched on that I mentioned that is another movie we really don't know uh, about is Nosferatu. Um,
That shit is not getting nominated for Oscars.
yeah, no, I don't really think so either. But I don't know. Like, it's like if people are just like
Yeah, because there's a long
totally in love
history
with
of
it.
Robert Eggers movies getting nominated for
No, I
Best Picture.
know, but it's like I know, but I'm just saying, I don't know. It's like
No, I think what I think about
sometimes
Nosferatu. I think I'll like that movie.
no, I mean, I'm now that I have seen Gladiator 2, Nosferatu is certainly the movie I'm most excited for the rest of the year. Um, I also think I will like it, and on top of that, I don't know. Like, it's like I know you said that, like you joked about the Robert Eggers thing, but it's like that is a pretty like I guess like normal path, and it is kind of something that we're seeing happen with the front runner Honora, which is like director who makes a bunch of like smaller films, makes their first movie that could kind of like break them into the mainstream, and then it gets a bunch of awards attention, like it's like Sean Baker was not really respected by the Oscars for all his other stuff, and then Honora, his like most commercial project, is now like the front runner to win Best Picture. And so like, Nosferatu, like Eggers doesn't really get the respect for the smaller stuff, and then he makes this now big movie Nosferatu, and if people really like it, then it's like, yeah, I don't know, I could see it, but
Yeah, but Universal I don't think is like positioning it as a
as
as an
a Oscar
awards
movie,
movie.
yeah.
It's positioning it more as like a I don't even know, like it's a new Exorcist, bro. Like
Yeah, that's the problem, and that's probably its biggest robot. I mean, all the movies in this category do have like kind of huge hurdles to overcome, which is that they're just probably not going to get nominated. But it's fun to talk about them. Um, any did I miss any movies? I don't think
I don't think
I'm
so.
pretty
Oh yeah,
sure
I mean,
that's
you missed Deadpool and Wolverine,
right. Yeah,
and
Deadpool
you
and
missed
Wolverine,
Red
Challengers.
One.
Um,
You didn't bring up queer.
I didn't bring up Queer, but based on what I've seen, it seems like it's just not even
Yeah,
in
it
the
seems like a
running. I
non-starter.
don't
It
know.
seems
I
like a
mean,
non-starter.
it seems like one of those movies I was referring to where it's just a possible acting nomination and nothing else, a Daniel Craig in there and not much else. But I guess you can't count it out. I don't know. I'm looking at like my list of just favorite movies of the year, and I mean most of these are not really in contention. Um, so I'd say that's mostly the list. We could um, we could wrap up there. Next week, episode 93. We will be talking, of course, about Gladiator 2
Yes.
and maybe Wicked, I guess. I don't know.
Listen,
It's
I'm
gonna
gonna see. I'm gonna see Wicked. Owen's not
I
gonna see
have
Wicked.
tickets. I have tickets to see Wicked. You guys listening, that's up to Owen. If Owen wants to see Wicked,
Yeah.
then we will talk about both of them. I'm there day one. I'm actually going to an early screening for Wicked. I'm seeing it on Wednesday because it's like the early fan event or whatever. Because I'm a John M. Chu truther, and I'm and
John M.
I'm
True Truther.
and I'm and I'm and
You're
I'm
John
I'm
M.
Wick
True.
in, man. I'm Wick in. I can't wait to see Wicked. If
I'm
it was up to
Glicked.
me, if
I'm
it was up to me,
Glicked.
we would be doing an only Wicked podcast. We wouldn't even need to talk about Gladiator 2.
Okay, I don't know
Um,
about. I
no,
don't know
I'm
about
kidding.
all
I'm
that
kidding.
noise.
Anyway, those are the two movies. We'll see if we talk about both of them. And we'll see you later.
Bye.